panel. I'm joined by Palm Beach County, Florida State Attorney Dave Aronberg and Joseph Moreno, a former federal prosecutor. Great to have you both here. Dave, it's very rare for an attorney general to publicly request a president to assert executive privilege. Does this show that Garland is worried the tapes would be damaging?
Elizabeth, he's worried that he would be held in contempt and face criminal prosecution, but by invoking executive privilege, that's out the window. He could still be held in contempt, but there's no risk of any criminal prosecution here. And to your question of why is this going on, it's all politics. I mean, the Republicans want this to embarrass President Biden, and President Biden doesn't want this out in the political season before the election, so this thing will be litigated perhaps and it'll be decided after the election. So both sides sort of get what they want, but it's all politics. Hate to be so cynical, but there is no legislative need for it other than to try to embarrass Joe Biden before the election.
Yeah, Joseph, do you agree with that assessment, that it's all politics here? I mean, when I asked Joe, there's this committee has been for months investigating whether or not the Biden family did anything illegal, whether or not President Biden benefited from his brother's and his son's business dealings. They've yet to come up with any tangible evidence at all. Even fellow Republicans are saying there's no there, or at least that you've been able to uncover. Is this somehow related to that?
Well, it's certainly political. I guess the question is who has the greater authority to get those tapes, whether the House can get them or the Justice Department can keep them. I guess executive privilege is the best they can come up with to sort of slow the process. It's not a very good argument. I mean, executive privilege protects the president's ability to get unvarnished advice from his or her advisors.
Right.
It's certainly not a recording of his own words, especially when the transcript's already released. So it's sort of a laughable assertion, but it's also a laughable request. And so I guess the whole thing goes in circles. I got to think, the primary reason to delay this is to put it until after the election to avoid embarrassment to the president. And the Republicans will spin their wheels until eventually they'll probably get it, but it'll take a while.
Joe, Merrick Garland did say that releasing them could harm efforts in the future to get people to cooperate with investigations and to sit down for taped interviews if they all know, oh, it could be released and somebody could use it for whatever he or she would like. Is he right about that?
Well, I suppose. I mean, when Donald Trump was being investigated by Bob Mueller, he declined to sit down for an interview. So it is the subject's choice, and it's their choice to be recorded or not. So I suppose that's a decent argument there. I don't know that that actually protects right now the fact that the Justice Department has in possession those recordings and the House wants them under its oversight powers. But it's certainly a good argument as to why this could definitely damper the willingness of future subjects to, agree to something like this.
Dave, the White House counsel told the committee, we heard Joe refer to this, that there is no legitimate need for this, that all you want to do is edit it. He said, quote, this lays bare your likely goal, which is to chop it up and use it in campaign ads, distort them and use them for partisan political purposes. Legally, is the committee allowed to take an audio tape that was part of an investigation and chop it up and air it?
Well, the political consultants can, because when the committee gets it, it'll become public, and then the consultants can do what they want with it. And I agree with everything that Joe said. I think it is hard to invoke executive privilege on the recording when you've already given out the transcript. So this is about a dance that will delay things until after the election. But look, Merri Garland should not have appointed Robert Hur to begin with, a Donald Trump appointed U.S. attorney, if he was worried about this being used politically. So maybe this is like a makeup call from Attorney General Garland to do his boss, the president, a solid after appointing a U.S. attorney as special prosecutor who would do this thing to him to get him to this stage.
Yeah, and who wrote a report that Merrick Garland then released to the public without redacting any part of it. The House Judiciary Committee voted to hold the AG Garland in contempt. The move is largely symbolic. It would have to go to a full House for a full vote. And both Attorney Generals Eric Holder and Bill Barr were both found in contempt by Congress during the Obama and Trump administrations. It seems to be meaningless. Joe, that's for you.
I mean, it's largely symbolic, of course, right? I mean, I feel like it may have been absolutely unheard of at some point in our history, and now it seems like it's sort of a regular thing. I think they're missing the point, though. Robert Hur gave Joe Biden an absolute gift here. He found that all the elements of mishandling classified information were there, and that he could probably prove willfulness, which means knowledge and intent. And the fact that he said, well, I'm not going to prosecute him because he has bad memory and is a sympathetic guy, that's a gift.
Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.